What's up, ma? Big Dog Daddy dudes? Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into the trail mode of MX vs. ATV Legends. I know there's probably some of you guys out there that are still kind of curious about this, that may not necessarily have the game. I don't think I really covered this a lot in my initial review of the game, so yeah, let's talk about this trail mode. Let's go through a couple of these different tracks. Let's just kind of figure out what it is that MX vs. ATV is actually doing with this shit, okay? So, I don't think it's really exactly what all of us wanted it to be. There's two different kind of trail modes out there, okay? There is full-blown Gncc, Hare Scramble, Bark Buster, bouncing off the trees, super narrow, rocks, rock gardens, uphills, hill climbs, log crossing, river crossing, canyon jumping. Okay, there's that, and then there's this. All right, that's your two different kind of trail style tracks and modes that you're going to have in these different sort of dirt bike games, even with custom tracks on like MX Simulator or, Reflex or MX Bikes or something like that. Even when you go to that, there's two different kinds of trail tracks. There's this kind of trail track, which is like you could fit an ATV on it. You could probably fit a UTV on it. It's a little bit wider. You're not really worried about bouncing off the trees. You're not really jumping over a bunch of log objects. You know what I mean? It's almost just more of a super narrow, elongated motocross track than it is like an actual trail track. You see what I'm saying? You see the difference there? Whereas especially with a lot of my custom tracks that I made on MX Sim trail tracks, those have been a lot more like your realistic style. I did a whole thing where I was able to go in there and have tree billboards that were actually collidable, so you could have a shitload more objects on there, but have smaller collidable trees that were super close to the track. I did a lot of different things back in the day. I'm sure some of you guys will remember that, but I had a rainforest trail track where it was raining on the track and it had slicker mud sections along with tighter, narrow, bounce off the trees super close to the track, log cross, rock gardens. I know back when I raced real life GNCC, I probably did a good handful of them, and then obviously practiced on a bunch of other different tracks. But with where I was at, it was a lot of narrow, tight, uphill, downhill, rock garden, up a hill, super sketchy, can I even make it down this motherfucking hill? You know what I mean? It was a lot of that kind of stuff. Log, cross the giant log going through the corner without hitting the trees right there next to you. Basically, you just cut out a trail in the middle of the woods, right? That's my experience of GNCC style, Hare Scramble style racing. So let's see if I can not pop off on this. It is tricky, bro. Whoo! Okay. That is tricky right there. But as you can see, with MX vs. ATV Legends, I don't think this is quite what all of us were wanting out of this. It was cool. Listen, some kind of trail mode is better than no trail mode, obviously. So we are working into something cool here, but it definitely did seem to turn out to be what I was really concerned about with those early trailers and shit for this game. That trail mode trailer, I was telling you boys, I was like, I don't know, man, this don't really look like full-blown GNCC style. I mean, as you can see right here, there are some extreme downhills. This kind of feels like you're playing a mountain bike style game. It is cool, It does have a cool feel to it. Even though I'm saying it's not really what I wanted it to be, it does have a cool feel to it on some parts of the track, okay? There are definitely some parts of the tropical track. We'll go take a look at that here in a second. But also, I just wanted to show off how cool the if you get on one of these tracks with a specific time of day effect, like this one, when it's got this sort of almost like a like the sun's really shining through, right? It gives this track a totally cool feeling to it. Let's see what other kind of trail tracks we got here, okay? All right, boys, we got a little bit of that tropical vibe, if you know what I'm saying, bro. Okay, so, but what I was saying, though, like with that snow map that we were on, you know, depending on the time of day, man, it can totally change the look of the track, like, entirely. So, but I thought it was a cool addition. These trail tracks made a cool little addition to the career mode in the game. That's what I felt like was so cool about them, was the fact that it really gave this game its own kind of feel where it felt like when you first started into the game, you know, you hopped on there on a couple of the motocross tracks through the career mode. Then it starts to put you through these trail tracks, these trail mode tracks pretty quickly. And I just feel like it added a whole nother layer and level to the career mode of the game and really gave you that little bit of something extra to do, more than just let's go ride through the motocross series and then let's go ride through the supercross series. I feel like anytime there's that extra little thing, there's that extra, you know, whatever to it, yeah, I feel like it just gives it, whether it's like a hill climb series or a trail series or a, you know, supermoto series or whatever. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is a good example of right here. So on some of the tracks, they can get a little bit more narrowy like this, but it's kind of few and far between the spots where it's like that, where you could actually collide over a rock object, or you would hit a tree. You know, this track has a couple spots where it's got a shitload of these different, like, pathways you can take, as you would call it, like split lane style pathways. Really cool area here. This is probably one of the better examples of the different trail tracks being a little bit more like they should be. Right, but all the tracks are not like that, for sure. So, but my point being, though, is instead of the whole track kind of feeling like that tighter, more realistic trail feel, it's like most of the track is a little bit more of a flat gameplay, just hold the gas down, steer the bike through the layout of the track, and just, you're going to be fine. You're not going to hit anything. You're not going to flip over on any roughness. You're not crossing any log objects. You're not jumping over rivers, flooding the bike out. You know, there's just not a whole lot of shit that's going on here. You know what I mean? But there is the rare occasion, like you just saw on this track, where you'll get in those cool little areas that do kind of get more like they should be, but it's not like that around the whole track, and it's not like that on every track by any stretch of the imagination, okay? So that's a big part of it right there. Is it cool to, you know, ride by the ocean and, you know, look off in the distance, sip on your tea? It is. It's badass. The vistas and the wide open scenery and all that is what makes these trail tracks feel really cool, and there's not just one biome of it. You know, it's a tropical biome, it's a snow biome, it's a desert biome. Really gives you that variation within that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they just, it was an okay, like, first step back into the trail sort of track type stuff in these MX vs. ATV games. But of course, we want to see a lot more than this. You know, it's kind of like, where's the rock gardens? I really did think they were going to have more jumping over logs, jumping over rocks, actual object collision. I mean, they kind of have shit like this where you're like, kind of jumping over these little canyon rock, but this is just nothing. This is absolutely nothing like rock garden. You know what I'm saying? Like a bunch of smaller rocks that could actually cause you to wreck. But it's always tricky doing that in an arcade dirt bike game. I think you can get away with that more in a simulator style dirt bike game, because you can lose your front end and shit easier in those games. It's harder to cross. Like, if you were to just make like a rock garden, you would have to make the rocks pretty big. I know they kind of had that on MX vs. ATV Untamed on the Endurocross tracks, if you remember that. They had kind of like rock gardens, log crossing, matrix, jump down the little pond through the logs and shit through the Endurocross on MX vs. ATV Untamed. Okay, so that was all really badass, and the bike reacted really cool, and it was kind of skill gapped, and it was what I'm trying to say here is it would be the trick in trying to get the bike to, it's one thing to make the tracks with proper enough objects, or tight enough, or bouncing off the trees, or realistic enough, or whatever you want to call it. Smithy boy with the OJ, dude. Way too much OJ, dude. Oh my god. I was like, dude, I'm just going to throw it fatty, dude. Okay, so what reason why I overjumped that right there is because I went in here and changed the bike a little bit setup-wise. I made it more down like full-blown top speed instead of acceleration to try to talk about a different point that I had here. So, yeah, let me see where I'm going here. But you can see how some parts of these trail tracks are going to get very, very basic. Like, literally, your grandma could get through these trail tracks with their eyes closed. You know what I'm saying? It's not like what I would call necessarily enduro or, extreme enduro or whatever. It's not exactly like that, bro. You know what I'm saying? See if Spencer Boy jump back over. Here we go. But yeah, not a whole lot of places unless you just overjump some single or something like that. There's not a whole lot of places you're really gonna pop off or necessarily, Okay, let's see where we're at here. But yeah, me running like a maximum top speed instead of maximum acceleration, it does add a little bit more, it seems, to the bike as far as top speed, where those wide opening sections aren't as boring. But I still don't think it's anything like Reflex. Like when you go to Reflex and you put it to maximum top speed tuning. But yeah, so as you can kind of see right here, I mean, it just almost starts to get it like a Reflex style Omnicross track and shit like that. It just almost starts to get that sort of vibe to it, but then kind of loses it a little bit, But yeah, like I say, there's like moments of brilliance within these different trail tracks, but it's not that way over the whole track. I would say it's probably like, for the most part, it's like, 80% flatter, a little bit more bland, boring style gameplay on the trail tracks, and then there's like maybe 10-20% of it that's actually like it should be and exciting and jumping over rocks and skill gapped and trees and logs, and there's like 10 or 20% of these tracks that are like that, and then 80% of them that are more bland, basic, you're just on the gas with your eyes closed. So, but like I was saying, it's not just about making the tracks more realistic and it more like an actual Gncc trail track. You also have to get the gameplay of the game to fit that. I don't even know how much the current MX vs. ATV Legends physics system would even fit like a tighter log jumping, tree bouncing, Gncc style, Hare Scramble style track. I don't even know how much the physics of this game would match that. Right? So there is kind of that element to it as well. I feel like with the slow speed and the physics of Untamed, it really fit those Endurocross tracks on that game in a way to where they were skill gapped. But I don't know, man. If you made like a log cross or a rock garden-y style section, I think Reflex was a good example of how you do that in a modern day arcade dirt bike game. Whoops. In the sense of like there was some log crossing on Reflex, there was some rock jumping. I wish even there would have been a little more, and I think some of the custom tracks got that with Reflex, but obviously with Reflex's physics, it really created that skill gap when you were trying to jump logs and go over objects and, You know, you got to some more of those wide openings points on the Omnicross tracks. It wasn't as boring because you could get going super fast and the bike would start bouncing around on the roughness. It doesn't really do that on Legends, so I think part of that also creates a bit more of a kind of bland gameplay experience when you get on the wide open parts of it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, man, it could be better. Glad to see it, but it could definitely be better.